All right, welcome to the webinar. Looks like we got John. John, can you turn your camera on, if possible? And also David, if you guys can turn your cameras on when we do these webinars and when Dr. Rademacher goes through this, we love having being interactive with that. And in doing so, we want to make sure that you can get your questions answered. And it's always nice when you're talking to somebody to be able to see their face, which is, the wonders of modern technology. Um, and so we're going to be going through a subject which we've helped many clients with, many doctors around the country with, of getting patients onto care. And we'll give you some tools that will go with that. So, hey, John, thanks for turning that camera on. So as we go through, if there are any questions, go ahead, either click the button to raise your hand, unmute yourself, or put it in the chat. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn over to Dr. Gary.
Awesome. Can you hear me, Quentin?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Awesome. Welcome, guys. David, John, welcome to this webinar. We'd like to keep these actually pretty small so that we can engage with people who are on here. And so the whole purpose of this is just to give some you guys a little bit of a blueprint of how to help onboard patients onto your care. And so just you can use your chat box at any time. I have it open on my end so we can answer questions that you may have. We also have, you can unmute yourself and ask questions anytime along the way. I'll be going over a little bit about my background, and then also I'm going to give you some tips and some tools that you can use to increase conversions. So, but real quickly as I'm going, we got David, John, and is it Dickshaw? Am I saying it right? If you can put your camera on, that'd be great. But you can use the chat box, or you can just chime in. Like, what challenges do you currently have in getting people started on care? Or even a better question might be, what's your current conversion rate? Like, if 10 patients came in, how many of those 10 are starting with your services right now? David, I'm going to go to you first. How many people are you starting on care right now, or what percentage? You can either type it in the chat box, or you can unmute. We can have a two-way communication here. Dr. Gifford, welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Gifford, I'm just going around asking people what their current conversion rate is, and in what problem are you having in this area, if at all, or are you just sharpening the axe because you're already doing really well and you're just someone who continually learns, right? What would you say your conversion rate is, Dr. Gifford?
Not good. Probably
No?
30%, 25%.
Yeah, that's where I was too. So I know how that feels. For me, it was really frustrating because I want to help as many people as I could, and I was 10 years into practice, and I was at like a 35% close rate. And I'll go over my story here in a little bit, so I know how frustrating that can be. And then, what do you feel like? What are you running into right now? Like, what would you say? Why do you think that is? Like, what do you feel like you're running up against?
Most of it, from my impression, is the cost, which kind of confuses me with the way I'm charging things. But but most of it's, at least my impression is, it's cost.
Totally understand. I think we froze for a second. Dr. Gifford, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I completely understand that. May I ask what your average care plan cost is?
I kind of break things up into blocks of care, and so a block of care runs about $750.
750, 750?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you for that. My intention is to hopefully give you some good information that even just from what we go over today, it will help. Okay. David, can you unmute yourself and let me know what you're running into right now?
50%.
50? Okay. And then your average care plan is about how much?
8,000.
8,000. Okay. And then what's your perception of what the biggest problem that you're running into is?
People's uncertainty with the economy.
Economy uncertainty. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And then, John, thank you so much for having your camera on. What would you say your conversion rate is right now? Oh, you're muted. You're muted right now, John.
Darn close to 100%.
Dude, that's fantastic. Good. So what is your average care plan? Like, how much are you charging for your services?
I'm a cash practice. I charge a
Mhm.
flat rate fee of $40 per visit.
Okay. And you're going per visit. Good. And then what are you looking to get out of this today? Like, sharpening the
I'm
axe?
just sharpening the axe, just seeing if, there's something out there I might be missing. That's all.
Understood. Good. Well, thank you for joining us today. And as I'm going along, if you have any questions, please chime in, or you can use the chat box.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, let's get rolling here. I think the Diksha is on. It actually, am I pronouncing that right? Is it Diksha? I don't see
Hi,
it.
Gary. Yeah, it's Diksha here. Actually, I'm
is it
Dr. Casey assistant. So I am recording the video and I'm just attending the this webinar on behalf of him, as he is not available right now, and he
Got it.
doesn't
Oh,
want to miss your webinar. That's the reason why I'm here.
understood. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know what your office's closing percentage is?
I'm so sorry. I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, thank you for joining us. And obviously, I think there's going to be some good content where it'll greatly help you. So take notes, because this is going to be good. It's going to be fast and
Yeah.
furious. So I'm going to get going here. So just to let you know, everyone who's on here today can get on with Quentin and do a 2-hour, it's completely free practice analysis session. When we look at an organization as a whole, typically there's a few stop points or a few obstacles that typically are really common that people run into. By the way, we've been consulting and doing trainings for over 20 years and have trained thousands of offices around the country and abroad. And the first one typically is just, getting new patients, becoming omnipresent in your area and getting new patients in. We help people with that. The second one is conversions, which we're talking about today. Like, once I get the patients in, how do I convert them onto services? And then the next one is your organization in and of itself. So if we don't have systems within our organization, in every area of our organization, it's going to be a stopping point. So we hit that glass ceiling, and we're not going to grow, or it's going to be stopped. We won't grow as much as we'd like to if we don't have proper organization and standard operating procedures put in. And so, but today we're going to focus on the sales side of it. So, I know sales is a dirty word, but I liken it to it's a help flow, right? And so for my story, for the first 10 years I was in practice, if this sounds familiar to everyone who's on here, is, I saw patients on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I did everything else Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, right? It was a 24/7, 365-day grind. And I remember on those off days from treating patients, I was doing the accounting, I was doing payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, I was marketing. And, along that journey, I had a failed partnership. I went into business with a friend that I graduated school from. And that didn't go well because we had a different vision, right? We weren't lined up properly. I had many consultants the first 10 years, and I always got something out of consulting, but it never did help my closing percentage. And that's where I was really struggling. I had around a 35% close rate. And it was really tough for me. As I mentioned earlier, my purpose was to help as many people as I possibly could. And when I was having 7 people out of 10, leaving without doing anything, that was painful for me. And, during those first 10 years, I never took vacation, never a week. I would do the 3 and 4 day weekends, right? I'd plan everything around a 3-day weekend and add a day. But then when I wasn't in the office wasn't actually making any income. It was a personality-based business. And And I suffered from not being able to be in present time consciousness, right? So I'd be in the practice dreaming of a vacation, and then when I was on vacation, I was worried about what was going on at the office and not producing. And so I was running on that hamster wheel for a long time. And then what happened was, do you guys remember Dynamic Chiropractic? Maybe they still do this, but they have the paper that they used to send out every month. And I remember getting that paper and I was flipping through it, and this goldenrod sheet of paper fell out, and it was titled Highest Evers on it. And when I started looking at that, this is back in 2004-ish. And when I started looking at the highest evers, I was seeing highest ever in new patients, highest ever in production, collections, and then I saw conversions. I was seeing doctors giving testimonials of conversions 80 and 90%. And I was like, man, that's what I desire. At the time, I was doing corrective care plans. I was doing like CBP and Pedibond type like care in my office. So I was doing like 36 to 50 visit type like care plans. And so they were like $5,000-$6,000 back at that time, care plans. And so when I saw that, I called them up, had a conversation, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm just going to go for it. So I took a report of findings course. And what happened after taking that report of findings course for me was I came back to my office and I changed things up, and I started closing 80%. I didn't change anything in my recommendations. I was giving the same recommendations, but I jumped significantly. And when that happened, it created a lot of different types of problems for me. I quickly, some of the problems I ran into were, I would be in a report of findings, and my front desk would be knocking at the door saying, hey, you've got 10 patients you got to treat. And I'd be backing up. Like I had flow problems because as I was adding more and more people onto care, I didn't have time to do a full report of findings process. And so I had to make a decision. But it forced good decisions for me, and it forced expansion into my office as I started closing more people on care. So it was a domino effect. Some of the other problems it caused, I had to hire more employees, so my overhead went up, but that was actually a good thing. For 10 years, my thought process was, practice on a shoestring, don't spend any money, which means don't hire employees. And, I realized I had to start buying time, which is hiring and training employees. And so once this happened and I started getting more new patients through their help, I had to study marketing, getting 35 new patients in a week, 40 new patients in a week, 80% conversion rate. And I went from 100 visits a week to 600 visits a week in around 2 years. And I had multiple providers working with me. I eventually medically integrated my office just because it was a new game. And I moved from a 1,500 square foot office to a 6,000 square foot office. And I went to multiple, businesses. I sold those businesses, and now I'm part of 8 companies. And it's all due to making a decision to learn how to do an effective report of findings, believe it or not. And also what happened for me is I went back to the Business Academy and I said, listen, if you can help me with my conversion rates, what else can you do? And they taught me how to be a business, which is something I never learned in school. And that's what I'm seeing with most students getting out there right now. You get out $200,000, $300,000 in debt, but you don't know how to run a business. And so they're really struggling right now in getting their practices going. But even when I graduated in 1995, I didn't learn how to run a business. I had to, learn as I went along, right? But then I took courses from the Business Academy that taught me how to be an executive. So that's just my story in a nutshell. I don't say all that stuff to impress you guys because I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. But my intention is like, if I can do it, so can you guys. Like I really firmly believe that if someone like myself can just learn, and implement, then you too can grow and create the practice that you want. And before I get into the tools I'm going to go over with you in closing, if I was to go over with you guys, like if I took a chiropractor that sees, let's say, 100 visits a week, and another chiropractor's office that sees 400 visits a week, and if I said, hey, you two, I'm gonna flip flop you. I want the person seeing 100 visits a week to go into the 400, and the 400 a week to go into 100, what's going to happen to those offices? And I contend that the chiropractor who sees 400 visits a week, who goes into the 100 visits a week office, they're going to raise those numbers up, right? The chiropractor that sees 100 visits a week, if they jumped into that 400 visit a week office, what do you think is going to happen to those numbers? Boom, down. I read your lips, John. Yeah, they're going to go down because the beingness is different. The beingness is different. The beingness, I want to go over a concept, be, do, have. If you have a certain havingness to create something, then someone who's seeing 100 versus 400 visits a week, they have a different beingness. And the beingness is your development, it's your knowledge, it's your learning, what you've learned, it's what you've been taught, it's your application. And so when you learn something new and you apply it and you do it, then you can attain that havingness, if that makes any sense. And so what we focus in on at the Business Academy is helping to train and actually bring your beingness up so that you can have the havingness that you want. And freedom, the definition of freedom in my book is someone being able to do what they want to do when they want to do it. Some of us on here just love taking care of patients, and that's what they want to focus on. But maybe they don't have time on the management side, because there's 3 positions that you guys have in your office, right? There's 3 positions. When you start your office, you're the founder and the dreamer, you are the manager, and you're also the technician. If you wear all 3 hats all the time, you're hitting a glass ceiling and you're not going to grow. I can guarantee you that. You'll get to a certain point and then there'll be a stop. So at some point in time, you have to take one of those hats off. Some of us just want to focus on treating patients, which is great. Some of us maybe have been in this game a long time and would love to focus on managing the office more and not treating the patient as much. Right. So there's different ways to go about this thing called practice, depending on what your goals and what your dreams are and what your definition of freedom is. Back years ago, like from 2010 on, like this was my graph. I had a major affluence year after year. And again, I'm not showing this to impress upon you, but this was as I started to learn how to be a business, and then my closing percentage went up. It just, I ended up capping out in my office at 4.5 million a year. And then I ended up going multiple practices, and I ended up, like I said, selling them and going into training, which is what I love to do. So my goal and intention is just to let you know that, hey, we're going to be focusing on sales today, but we do need systems, right? What allowed me to scale was learning how to have systems. Like your dream needs to have a system. Like, are you writing your goals down there every day? Are you focusing on those goals? Marketing needs a system. We have to become omnipresent in every single area of our business. Leads and lead management needs a system. Like if you're bringing leads in, how are you managing those leads? Depending on what guru, most gurus out there in marketing will tell you it takes 8 to 15 touch points to bring a new patient in. There's a sales process that we want to systematize, right? And then there is money management, and then there's a scaling management that we need to understand so that we can get our businesses up to where we're helping the number of people that we want to help. And we're bringing in the income that we want to bring in so that we can take care of our families. So once we actually learn how to do this, this is the difference between your kids going to private school versus public school. It is the difference between what zip code you live in, and it is the difference between, flourishing and prospering and not. Okay. Now, there's this tool called an org board that I want to quickly review because I think this is super important. This is a tool. Each and every single one of you are in, when you first start your practice, you're probably in every single division. Okay. On the far left, you have an executive division. And then as we go across from left to right, you have division 1, which is your HR and your front desk, your communications division. And then you have an enrollment division. Actually, let me actually see something real quickly. Yeah, perfect. I changed up the slides, and so for a second I got confused. But this is a fantastic tool. Your division two is your consultations and report of findings, right? And in division 3 is your treasury, right? It's paying your bills, it's payroll, inventory. Division 4 is whatever services that you're delivering. This is division 4. Division 5 is quality control, right? We need to have systems in handling upset patients and upset staff, what games that you put in. You know, and in marketing, what marketing systems do you have? Now, if you look at each and every single one of those divisions, there's a valuable final product and a statistic on the bottom. It's very important that each member of your team knows what their valuable final product is in every single division. So for an example, when you're wearing the executive and owner hat, your valuable final product is a viable expanding practice. The statistics are gross profits, right? So we should be operating off statistics. This is how we manage the team, is by statistics. And we train on all this, by the way, guys. We help you develop this whole organization. And I'm really simplifying it here. Okay. Now, just as a question, and you can put this in the chat box right now, guys. How many divisions are you currently in? So if you look at this, Division 7, if you are the executive director and working in your office, you are in that division. Okay. Now, when you look at Division 1, if you're hiring people or firing people, if you ever pick up the phone, if you ever fix the printer or the internet, you're in Division 1. If you're doing, case management, if you're doing consultations and evaluations and progresses, you're in Division 2. If you're doing payroll, accounts payable, accounts receivable, billing, insurance, I know, John, you are cash, which is fantastic. I love that. But you're in Division 3. In Division 4, if you're delivering services to patients, if you're putting your hands on patients, you're in Division 4, regardless of the service center that you're doing. Division 5, if you're handling upset staff, upset patients, you're in Division 5. And Division 6, if you're doing any marketing, SEO, Facebook, lunch and learns, dinner talks, doing screenings, if you're doing any of that kind of stuff to get new patients in, you're in that division. Now, real quickly, you can use the chat box for this. How many divisions are you guys in? And you can unmute yourself too. I'm going to just go real quickly. John, how many divisions are you in? You're muted right now, my friend. Sometimes it's hard with that iPhone or phone that you might be on. I know. If you can put in the chat box, or else you can. I'll see if
go ahead, Sean.
All of
Go
them.
ahead. All of them, 7. Understood. I've been there. Okay, you know what? You'd be a really good fireman. That's how I was. Every time there's a problem, I'm on it, right? I'm all over this org board, right? But that's actually what causes us this glass ceiling to come down on us. It's hard to scale because we're a jack of all trades doing everything. If we played baseball, we'd be that utility player that can play every position, and we're very good at it, right? Dr. Gifford, how many divisions are you in?
6.
6? Understood. We also have David. How many divisions are you in?
4.
4. Got it. Dr. Carl?
I'm in all 7.
All 7? Join the club, my friend. Dr. Ronnie? Not sure when you popped on, Dr. Ronnie, but Dr. Zorn.
Yeah. No, I'm in all 7 also.
All 7? Yeah, welcome to the team. All right, so listen, guys, let me be the first to say you guys are the ones who are like in 4 divisions and higher, which I think was everyone. Congratulations. You guys are probably the hardest working people that I know, because running a business is not easy and it takes a lot of work, right? And so what we specialize in at the Business Academy is giving you standard operating procedures and helping you to scale your business by replacing yourself. So I used to be in all 7 too. So here's what happens. You remember when I said there are 3 types of people in an organization? There's the founder, the dreamer, there's the manager, and there's the technician. So when you're wearing all 3 hats, it's difficult to expand, and you will feel like you're always putting fires out. So here's what's really cool. Whatever you put your attention on gets better. So this is the reason why when you have an emergency in a certain area of your office, you put your attention on it, boom, it gets better. But then as you're putting your attention over here, there's something over here starting to happen, and then that gets your attention. Then you're over there putting that fire out. And so you're literally putting fires out throughout your organization, right? And so it really comes down to this. What is your ideal scene? What do I want to create? Do I want a personality-based business, or would I like to have a staff-driven business? And that's what we help people with, whatever your dream is, because every one of us has different hopes and dreams and goals. And that's why I highly, highly recommend, if you go into the chat box, there's this practice analysis with Quentin. It's 2 hours. It's free. We will dissect your practice, and you can talk with him and say, hey, like, put a plan together. Like, this is, we've helped thousands of people. Like, what is the area to put attention on? Okay. Now I'm going to get off my soapbox on that, and I want to give you some tools to really, really do well. So I always like to ask this question: how do you like to get 80% of your patients signed up for your recommendations? Boom. That's me. I know it's everyone that's on here. And the next thing is what are you currently running into, right? So remember, I was saying the top 3 things that people run into: getting new patients, getting them converted, and your organization itself. And I want to spend the rest of the time going over that second problem, and that's conversions. So here is a definition, okay, of hard sell. And I know sales is a dirty word, guys, right? But hard sell means insistence that people buy. It means caring about the person and not being reasonable about stops or barriers, but caring enough to get him through the stops or barriers to get the services that's going to rehabilitate them. Now, there's a few key parts to this definition. The first thing is we're going to go over reasonable in a little bit, but it says caring here. Let me give you a little tip. When you're in a consultation, there's a difference between listening to understand and listening to speak, to respond. A lot of times what happens in conversations is we listen to respond rather than to actually duplicate what someone is actually saying. And there's some training that can be done on that can change your results. Caring here is the number one quality that I always look for when I was hiring case managers, because we train case managers on how to do this report of findings process. I had 4 case managers at one time. I would never did the exams, or I trained staff up to do all this stuff for me: the consultation, the report of findings. The report of findings process we do train to providers, but many of the people that go through our training, eventually we build the offices up to where they can have a case manager to do this for them. In fact, this past weekend, we had a workshop, and we had a room of 10 doctors from all over the country, and they're $4 million and up in their practices, and none of them are doing their report of findings. And it's because they've trained them up, right? And it's a mastermind group that we have. It's our elite mastermind. We have other different masterminds for all different office types, but that was the interesting thing that I saw in that group. They've had people that are trained up to do this for them, and their managers are all trained in our systems. And so some of them aren't even in their offices anymore. They work on it instead of being in it. There's a difference there. But the empathy is the number one key I'm looking for when I'm looking to have someone trained up in a report of findings process. A stop or a barrier can be, there's 5 different objections that you get when you're working with someone, right? Money. I think, John, you mentioned money. Then we have time. People have concerns on time. Then people have concerns on product or concern. There's stall. Like, I need to think about it. That's a stall. I need to go talk to my spouse. That's a stall, right? And then there's the hidden objection that people don't tell you because they don't trust you. So trust is established from the minute they walk in the door, but it's really, really established during your consultation. The number one reason why we see failed closes, or people who are at 30, 40% close rate, typically is the problem is in the consultation, believe it or not. Now, reasonable just means faulty explanation, right? So when an executive starts to explain the reason for low statistics instead of working to get high statistics, he's being reasonable. So as an example, Dr. Jones, why didn't patient, Mary, the patient, start on care? Oh, it was just too expensive for them. That can be being reasonable, because you have to understand that money is used as a stall more often than not. And just think about it yourself for a second. How many of you ever use money as an excuse not to purchase when money is really not the problem? Like, have you ever gone to look at a car and you look at that sticker price and the first thing you think of, wow, that's expensive, right? You complain about it, right? But then how many of you have driven off the lot with it? That first look at it is like, oh my God, that's incredibly expensive, but then you still drive off the lot, right? So this is what we don't want to do, gang. Soft sell means vaguely monitoring about your product. So example, and monitoring just means rambling on. So an example, like if your front desk is or if you're telling patients chiropractic could possibly help you with your pain, do you see the problem with that communication? That word possibly, it's very weak, because in my experience, chiropractic works 100% of the time. Now the application may not work because we're not maybe being the best doctors at the time, but the application, if it's applied appropriately, works. Or how about this one? It might be helpful if you follow your treatment plan. Do you see where the weakness is in that statement? Like the word might? You see, in my experience, if someone followed their treatment plan, they got better rather than if they didn't. And then lastly, an example of soft sell is come schedule an adjustment once in a while. It helps, right? I mean, we focused on lifetime pay. I believe in lifetime care. Even once you get someone out of the inflammatory phase of care, you get them through the repair phase, and you get them into a remodel phase of care. To me, I believe in someone keeping up on themselves, because life is tough. Gravity is a form of stress. Sitting at desks is a form of stress, and so keeping up in your body is important if you want to maintain your spine. So in any case, what we don't want to do, guys, is crush sell. That just means you overdo the hard sell technique and you wind up with crush sell and unhappy customers. You go to the other extreme called soft sell, and you'll wind up with no new patients, no income, and unhappy patients. So there's this happy medium, right? We want to be in the hard sell business, which just means care sell. If I was to replace that hard and put care in there, it's having empathy for people and communicating that with them in a way that they can experience it. And we train on that. This is what we do. We train people how to ask the right questions. Okay. Now, how does one decrease the number of objections? I started off with talking a little bit about be, do, have. The beingness of the individual will obviously decrease the number of objections. The more faith, confidence, and certainty you have in your product, services, and ideas. Did anyone graduate from Parker that's on here? FCB in your PSI? No? Jim Parker used to say that all the time. FCB in your PSI, right? Faith, confidence, beliefs in your product, service, and ideas. Like if you have a tremendous amount of faith and confidence in what you do and your beingness is there, that's really when you see someone who's seeing a lot of patients, it's because their beingness is at a different level. Now, that doesn't mean that your faith and confidence isn't there, but maybe their training is a lot higher. They've been trained in systems. They've been trained in their report of findings process. They've been, trained in hiring. They've been trained at a different level. So the beingness is different, right? And then number 2, belief in your products and services. And this was eye-opening for me. I had, in my 2 practices, I had over 30 staff at one point in time. And I remember asking the staff at a staff meeting one time, and we had a lot of different services. I was medically integrated, so we had chiropractic, we had regenerative medicine, functional medicine, we did neuropathy, we did so many different things, rehab. And I remember asking the staff one time, and I said, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, what is your understanding and belief in this product? So I'd say, hey, so what is your understanding and belief in chiropractic? What is your understanding and belief in orthotics? And as I was going through all of our services, I was having staff that was giving me a 2 or a 3 instead of a 10. And I took that as a failure on my part to not educate my team on what we did. Like, you have to have the number one thing to have is that faith and confidence in what you do and that you're going to help that person. When you have that oozes out of you when you're communicating with a patient, right? Because when a patient is purchasing services from you, like there was a doctor, I'm not sure which doctor it was, I was on here that said that they did $7,000 or $8,000 plans. I believe it was let me actually scroll up. It was David, I believe, Dr. David. an $8,000 care plan, when someone's paying $8,000 to see you, they're not just paying for the care, they're buying you as an individual. Like they're putting their faith and confidence in you as a provider. Would you guys agree with that? Like they've got to have faith and confidence in you. And the way that you develop belief in what you do is it's training and understanding and how you're going to help somebody. Now, we have a very, very specific way. We are actually known for our reported findings process. I would say everyone out there in the marketplace has copied our way of doing a consultation and report of findings because it's that good. And so, you know how they've said before, have you ever heard like people who copy you or mimic you is the best form of flattery? That's really, what it's been for us. But we have very specific day 1 and day 2 protocols, consultation and report of findings protocols that increases the patient's awareness to where when you get to what we call a demand for improvement, which the last one here of how to decrease objections, mastering the awareness scale, which I'm going to share with you. This is a tool that will enlighten you guys on how you increase someone's awareness to where they're at a demand for improvement. I know when I'm sitting knee to knee with a patient, when I get that patient to a demand for improvement, it's an 80% closing rate, regardless of what the charge is or what the service is. It could be $1,000 service. It could be a $100 visit. It could be a $20,000 case. It does not matter. When you get the patient to a demand for improvement, they're ready to go. Okay. Now, and I want to share that with you here in just a bit. Before I do though, here are the main reasons why you get a no at when you present your care plan. Number 1, the case manager or the provider is misinformed on what it takes to actually get a patient closed on care. That's it. There's just a lack of knowingness. That's all it is, guys. There is something there's a technology that exists behind communicating with people and bring someone's awareness up. And when you know it, and you never look back. The report of findings process, when I was 10 years into practice, I was in every single division of my organization. I was burnt out. I was working 24/7, 365. And this learning how to communicate with patients and getting them started on care was my first path to freedom for me to do whatever I wanted to do in my organization and to scale it to whatever I wanted it to be. The second thing is pressure can be perceived as a bad thing. Like if whoever you have that's sitting with the patient, if you look at pressure as a bad thing, you're going to have a difficult time. And you're not really pressuring the patient. Really what you're doing is you're just you care that much about that person in front of you that you're not willing to take the first no as a no. You're willing to push through that. 3, the unwillingness to deal with the emotional discomfort will prevent the close. We've all had it. Patients may break down in front of you. They get misemotional in front of you. They get emotional. Got to be able to handle that and understand what that really is and use that to your advantage. We already touched on this. The lack of belief in your purpose or in your service or your product can prevent you from going all the way to getting someone converted onto your services. Next one is an incorrect estimation of effort. Listen, when you have the right steps in play for your consultation and your report of findings, you'll improve your closing percentages drastically. Being reasonable can prevent the close. Let me give you an example of what that means. When my first handful of years when I got into practice, I'm going to date myself here. So in 1994, when I was in student clinic in Dallas, Texas, Parker, back then x-rays were $10 and the adjustment was like $5. Treating patients in student clinic, right? All of a sudden I graduate and then I'm in the real world, right? Treating patients. Now I'm asking for $250 for x-rays when it used to be 10. And I had a difficult time confronting that. And so guess what objections I got? I don't want to pay for x-rays. Wow, x-rays are expensive. And being reasonable would be like, yeah, they are, what can you afford? And I'd right away, like lower my fee. Okay. You don't see that anywhere else, right? Like, do you guys ever see, like, if you go to, if you went to a medical doctor's office for any type of service, if you said, "Wow, that's expensive," they don't go, "Yeah, it is. What can you afford?" They don't do that, right? So it's just having faith and confidence in your products and services, and um, really being comfortable with your fees and knowing that you're worth it and you value yourself for the time that you're spending with someone. And so being reasonable would be like, yeah, that is expensive. You agree with the patient. If they say that's a lot of time, yeah, it is a lot of time. How often could you come in? Like, you start to backpedal. And lastly, the last reasons why you get a no is having no financial plan in place. And what I mean by that is not the financial plan that you have for the patient. I mean the financial plan for you as an individual. What is your financial plan for you as an individual? What is your income demand? See, like, if you don't have a financial plan in place, it doesn't really drive you for you to be who you need to be, to push people all the way through to converting them on care. Now, here is the tool that I was telling you guys that's an amazing tool. It's called the awareness scale. Now, if we look up and down this awareness scale, at the very bottom, you see numbness, and at the top, you see help. There's a few points I want you to look at here. So first off, how many times have you had a patient come in and you do a consultation and they're sitting in numbness? And it might look like this. "Hey, Mrs. Jones, what brought you in?" Well, my significant other told me to come in." Right? Like, they're kind of numb. Like, they don't even, why are they there? Not, or if you go out into the environment and you do screenings, or you do lunch and learns, or you do massage pamper events, and the patient comes in and you say, "What brings you in?" And they say, "Well, your massage therapist told me to come in." Or maybe they're on so much medication. There's so many medications that they're just numb. Have you guys ever had that? Someone's so medicated that it numbs them up quite a bit, right? Now, as we come up that awareness scale, we see suffering and despair. There's times when people come in and they tell you exactly what's going on, right? I mean, I've got pain in my lower back and it's going down my legs, and they're suffering, right? And as we come up, we get to this thing called a ruin. And I'll go over the definitions with you guys here in a second. But a ruin is the emotional component behind the pain. So let's say the patient says, "Yeah, I've got this pain going down in my back, going down my legs, and my feet are numb, and I'm not able to go dancing with my significant other anymore, or I can't golf anymore, or, like, it's the emotional component. Like, I can't pick up my grandkids anymore because of the pain." Right? It's the ruin, and then effect is the list of effects of how it's affecting them. And so the quality of your questions during your consultation are so important. If we're not getting someone's awareness up, and there's an exact science to how you bring someone's awareness up, through fear worsening to a need of change into a demand for improvement. Do you remember when I said earlier, a demand for improvement is where you need to get someone for them to start on care, like at a very high conversion rate? But what happens is, if you go through the consultation and the report of findings and they're still sitting down there at despair or ruin, and you haven't brought them up, it equates to a failed conversion. Now, if we look at this word awareness, it's when someone perceives what's there. So a report of findings is to increase someone's awareness. So by educating the patient on what their condition is, they develop a better understanding. With greater understanding, the patient will choose to do something about their unwanted condition. People start talking about corrective care, as an example, because they become more aware of it. Okay. Now, when I break down these different levels of awarenesses, the ruin, like I was saying earlier, it's a problem. It's a problem that is real to the person. It's the unwanted condition. It's the emotional component behind the pain, which is missing more often than not during a consultation. Like, let me ask you guys this. If I had a patient that went to the first one office And during the consultation, you find that that patient's ruin is low back pain. Now, that patient goes to another office and gets another consultation. And at that consultation, the same patient with low back pain, let's say this provider finds out that it affects them at home, work, and daily activities. It affects them at work in that they're leaving work early every single day. It affects them which is affecting their income. And they're losing their PTO time. They're losing their vacation time. You also find out that when they go home, they can no longer play with their kids. So they're going home, they're going to bed early, and it's affecting the quality of time with their kids and their spouse. And when you pull the string on it and how that makes them feel, you see there's an emotional state change with, I'm not being the best father that I can be because I'm not spending time with my kids. What office is that patient going to start care under? The office that talked about their low back, or the office that's talking about helping them be with their family more, right? That's the emotional component behind their discomfort and their pain. It's the quality of your questions that you're asking during your consultation. And we have a format for that. Now, the effect is they realize how it's affecting their life. Fear of worsening is the, oh my God, time is my enemy, right? And then need of change, they realize they need to do something different. And then there's a demand for improvement, like, hey, I'm going to fix this. And that's where we need to get patients during a report of findings. Because then once you get them to a demand for improvement, they're hopeful and they reach for help and they sign up for care and they pay for the care, regardless of what you're charging. So again, through the consultation, through the report of findings, the goal is to raise their awareness, get them to a demand for improvement. When I learned this tool in 2004, 2005, my life changed. Because I knew how to effectively communicate with people. I knew how to effectively communicate with the report of findings and how to educate a patient and get people started on care. And when I mastered it, I trained staff how to do this, and they replaced me from doing the report of findings. I don't think I've done a report of findings since I don't know, it's been 10 years at least. But I know it really well because I trained on this, right? I went through the training with the Business Academy. Now, I want to go over a few other things here. There's keys to handling objections and closing and having really good closing techniques. So number one, we have to define your purpose. What's your motivation? What's your conviction? Why are you doing what you're doing? Again, this also defines what someone's beingness is, right? What's your motivation? What's your conviction? Number two, which is critical, is doing a proper consultation. A proper consultation, guys, will reduce your objections by half. We have a system that when you learn the report of findings process, it'll reduce those in half. So the quality of your questions gives the quality of the answers. Three, patients must be at a demand for improvement to have a high closing percentage, which we discussed. When you present a care plan, number four is you ask for the close and you stop talking. You guys have heard that before, right? The first person who talks loses after that, right? No matter what the patient says, when you first present that care plan and the price of that care plan, you just agree. Like if someone says, wow, that's expensive, the correct response is, yes, it is expensive. What would you like to do? And you put it right back on them. The reason why that's important to do, it is expensive. I don't care if someone's paying $100, $5,000, or $10,000. It's expensive. Who am I to judge if it's expensive for someone or not? Yeah, it is expensive. What would you like to do? Now, the reason I say what would you like to do, I look at number 6, treat every objection as a complaint. Are they complaining at that point in time, or are they just do they truly have an objection? How many of you would agree that we live in a complaint-filled society? How many of you guys have complained today? The alarm went off. I hit the alarm. I got to make breakfast for the kids. Darn it. I've got to, get to the office by 9 o'clock. I'm running 10 minutes late. These darn red lights. I've been sitting at this red light. It took 3. I've been at this red light for 10 minutes and it's been 2, right? And we're complaining, right? We live in a complaint-filled society, guys. So we have to cut through the noise. That's expensive. Yes, Mrs. Jones, it is expensive. What would you like to do? You know how many times I've said that? This is a number 5 and 6, guys. Those are 2 gold nuggets for you. When you present your care plan, present it, stop talking. Whatever they say, what are the 5 objections? You remember the 5 objections? It's money, time, product or service. They're going to stall because they have a question that's been unanswered, or it's the objection they won't tell you because they don't trust you yet. So whatever they say, you just agree. That's a lot of visits. Yes, Mrs. Jones, it is a lot of visits. What would you like to do? Do you know how many times someone has told me, like, it's expensive, and I said, what would you like to do? Yes, it is expensive. What would you like to do? What like to do? They'll say, well, do you take a health savings account? Of course we do. Do you take credit card? Yes, we do. Is that what you like to use? Yeah, I'll do that. And it stops right there. Now, the key thing here is this. If you treat a complaint as an objection, it becomes an objection. I'm going to say that again. If you treat a complaint as an objection, it becomes an objection. When merely, if you were to just treat it like a complaint, it goes away very quickly and easily. Now, the last tip here is gold as well. The objection is the reason why they should actually do your treatment recommendation. So let's just go through this. Wow, that's expensive, Dr. Gary. Yes, Mrs. Jones, it is expensive. What would you like to do? That's just a lot more money than I thought. Now they've mentioned money again. So when someone mentions money 2 or 3 times, now I know it's a true objection. And that's when I'll say, like, listen, Mrs. Jones, you told me your condition would worsen if you didn't do anything about that, right? Yes. You told me you wanted to handle it. Yes. Now, as time goes on, if you don't handle this, your condition is going to get worse. Is that going to mean that it's going to be more expensive to take care of it or less? It's going to be more. That's right. So that's the very reason why you should do it now. The very reason you don't want to do it, money, is the reason why you should, because if you leave this unchecked, you leave this and you don't do anything about it, you're going to be spending more money in the future. Let's do this. Handles people more often than not. Okay? I don't care if it's on money, time, or a product or service, right? So there's some tips. Now, some take-homes. We want to learn and use a proven sales system. Number 2, you must believe in the services you offer, right? Number 3, insist that patients buy, getting the services they need to rehabilitate themselves. And 4, you must make the patient more aware of the situation and move them to a demand for improvement or higher on that awareness scale. I already went over this. I want you to hear from someone real quickly. Dr. Dahmer, who's in our mastermind group, started off with us at 30 patients. I want you to hear a story real quick.
We started off seeing 30 people a week. We're seeing 1,000 people a week now. We're serving more of our community. Dr. Brian Dahmer, owner of Family Chiropractic Center for Wellness. I was that chiropractor that worked 5 years and never took a vacation. I can't imagine stepping away from my practice for more than a week. TBA has not only allowed me to become phase 2, I'm not in my practice anymore. I could take a vacation for 2 months now if I wanted to. And I've never had that kind of freedom. I have people coming up saying, oh, I go to your office, and I've never met them. It's nice to hear they got a great experience in my office, got a great adjustment, they're referring people, and I never stepped foot in that office. Management, having good leaders, having people that could run the show when I'm not there. We put the systems in place, the org board in place. It gives you just a clear vision on where you want to go and how to expand in the future. I joined 7th Division, which is a group of incredible individuals doing things above and beyond at a high level. I love masterminding with these people. I always walk away with best ideas and a nugget that I go home and immediately implement. I chose TBA just because I needed that structure. With 4 offices, if you don't have systems that are repeatable and staff aren't accountable and managed properly, it all comes crashing down. You can't have a personality-driven practice. You have to have something people can plug into, buy into, and grow. It's just the vision that you put out that you want to create, and you just keep expanding it and making it bigger. I can only impact so many people with my own 2 hands, you know, but as you teach and as you inspire your team, man, it's amazing what you can do. I'm excited to be a part of the group, and I can't wait for more to come.
All right, so that's Dr. Dahmer. And so that's I just want to give you a little taste. We have hundreds of clients who are $1 million practices, and they have 2, 3, 4 offices, and they're thriving and expanding in an environment where many people are struggling. And so that's what we do is we help offices to expand, and we do that by coaching and training. We're a little different. We're not a consulting company. We're a training company, frankly. But I'm going to open it up for questions right now. Are there any questions on anything I've gone over on increasing awareness or increasing your conversions, or you can talk about new patients or anything in your office? Any questions? Dr. Gifford, do you have any questions, sir? Nada? Dr. Zorn, do you have any questions?
I do have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Carl.
You had mentioned earlier, like, the number 6 was treat every objection as a complaint. And then a couple seconds later, you said treat every complaint as an objection. Maybe it's because it's early and I've only had one coffee and I'm not quite firing on all my cylinders yet. Could you give a quick example that treat a complaint as an objection for me?
Well, I wouldn't treat a complaint as an objection, so I may have misspoken. No, I treat every objection as a complaint first. And how that goes, Dr. Carl, is I don't care what it is. If they say that's a lot of visits, I'd be like, it is a lot of visits, Carl. What would you like to do? Because at this point in time, I don't know if that's a complaint or if that's an objection, right? Now, if you came back and you said, man, that's just I don't have that kind of time. I go into it like, I completely understand. You have to understand how it's pre-framed in the report of findings. Every patient is, through the report of findings process, they're going to tell me 2 main things. They're going to understand that their condition would worsen if they don't do anything about it, because of how we explain, because of Wolff's law and the piezoelectric effect, a subluxation or a joint dysfunction, however you view it. I don't care what your belief system is, but we know that a joint will keep breaking down over time if it's left untreated. So I know that. So we educate the patient. It's educational sales. We educate the patient that their condition will worsen if they don't do anything about it. The next thing is we get them to actually comprehend that, and then they say they want to handle their condition. So when they tell me those things, now when I'm presenting the plan, when they say there's a lot of visits, I can say, yes, Mrs. Jones, there's a lot of visits. What we'd like to do. That's just way more. I don't have that kind of time. I completely understand. I think about time before I do anything as well. You told me your condition would worsen if you didn't do anything about this. Now, if you don't do anything about this, do you think you're going to lose more time in the future, or are you going to have more time? Because as your condition worsens, what are you not going to be able to do as time goes on? Right? And see, I'm going to know through the consultation how this is affecting them, and I'll know what their ruin is. Like if their ruin was they wouldn't have any time with their kids, I'd be like, this is all the reason to do this, Carl. You said you're based on what you have going on, you're spending less and less time with your kids. If you don't take care of this, are you going to be spending more time with your kids in the future or less? It's going to be even less. That's all the reason why we need to do this. Let's do this. Sign here and here, right? It's just, so I'm speaking logically, but I'm also tapping into the emotional component behind their pain. Does that make sense, Carl?
Oh yeah, exactly. Finding out what's driving them there.
Yeah. What's their value? What's really important, guys, is we have to find what the patient values and what motivates them. Okay. Dr. Zorn, did you have any questions?
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't unmute before. If someone, because for some people today, money truly sometimes can be a barrier. Do you make any kind of payment arrangements if they truly want to commit? But
100%, yes. Oh, yes. So let me, Dr. Zorn, can we role play this real quickly?
Sure.
Okay. So, is it okay if I go by your first name, Ronnie?
Absolutely.
Okay, Ronnie. So, listen, everything you have going on, and I'm going to go over the recommendations and say, this is how many adjustments we're going to do. We're going to do laser, we're going to do shockwave, we're going to do da 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 da. Your total, your investment is $5,000. Now, most people sitting in that chair, Ronnie, want to save as much money as possible, right? And so we do to give a 10% discount for those who have the ability to pay in full. Is that something that you can do? You'd actually save $500, so your total today would be $4,500.
I would like to be able to do that, but I'm not in a position to do that right now.
I completely understand. We also have other options. So people who can't afford to put that up, we also have we have outside financing. And so in my office, I always had 5 to 6 different outside financing options, right? I'd always choose the one that gave me the best, terms, right? And also it helped the patient the most. So we have outside financing that gives you 12 to 18 months to pay off your program. And, is that something that we can apply for right now? And you can find out within 5 minutes. It's a soft credit check. It doesn't go against your credit. And we can just see if we can get you on some type of a monthly pay.
It depends on how much it is per month.
100%. Are you okay with us just checking to see? Because depending on what you qualify for, we can actually spread your payments out over time to get lower monthly payments.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, good. And so then I go into the application process. Now, if someone was to say, oh my gosh, okay, here's the key, guys. If someone said to me right now, I just filed bankruptcy, I'm not going to be able to I have no credit. Now I know, is this person qualified to be in your office?
No.
You have to understand what makes a qualified patient or not. If someone is claimed bankruptcy or getting divorced, they're not necessarily qualified. But I still swing for the fences to help them and to help them as much as I can. So now it turns into a monthly in-house financing. Maybe your option 3 is, you go to a monthly pay situation. But then it's your rules. What are your policies on onboarding a patient onto care?
Okay.
And then at that point in time, maybe you change your plan. But the thing is here, this is when you've done a good job. If someone is reaching for your care and they want it and you're going through all the different options and then you find out they're not qualified, you've done a good job at educating the patient, but it doesn't go against your closing percentage if you find out that someone's not qualified. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one that's sort of touched upon it. This is David. What
Hey,
kind
David.
of effect your closing rate is? What is the quality of the lead you're coming to sell to? So,
Mhm.
like neuropathy is a fairly low incidence, and with the care plans up in the thousands, it narrows down of who can really afford that. So are we better off letting in a wide number in and having a lower close rate, or having a more qualified person come through? That's we're debating or trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's a great question. It all comes down to how you're organized in your organization. In my organization, I did look at like the quality of your patients does make a difference, and so that would dictate where I market, right? Yeah, and so this is where you do a market analysis, and for neuropathy patients, where I got my neuropathy patients was from radio and TV, and I was driving them to a dinner talk, and at a dinner talk, I'd be qualifying people. But at the end of the day, listen, what's a great thing that you guys can do if you just looked outside a busy street, whether it's near where you live or where your office is, and you see the cars rolling by, there's not a shortage of money, guys. There are people who struggle, yes, but there's no shortage of money. They've printed more money in the last 5 years than all of history. It exists out there. When you look at someone's clothes or their watch or the shoes that they're wearing, I think that there's a bigger problem with value than there is with the lack of money. And the value is something that you have to find what someone values in the consultation, and you have to find out what motivates them. Because I guarantee you, if you sharpen the axe, Abe Lincoln said, if he had 6 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend 4 hours sharpening the axe. If you get very good at a consultation, like I'm telling you guys right now, your investment in yourself and learning how to do a good report of findings will pay you back 1,000-fold. When I learned how to do an effective report of findings, I went from seeing 100 visits a week to 600 visits a week, and I medically integrated, and I went to 4.5 million a year in my practice, and it changed my life because I educated myself. The greatest investment you guys can ever make is in yourself and in your knowledge. And at the end of the day, when you learn how to communicate with the patient and you understand what their value is, that same person who's going to you saying they can't afford it or they don't have time, if they walked into my office, they'd pay me 10 grand. And I'm not saying that, again, it's not to impress. I just know how to communicate with someone to raise the value of my services. And that's what, as a group, as a community here on this webinar, if we just learn how to effectively communicate with the patient, it's going to remove the barriers. That alone will remove your barriers. Does that make sense? And so what I'd love for you guys to do is get with Quentin. You schedule that 2 hours of practice analysis, and you can go over some of these stop points, these barriers that you're running into, and he'll go over options of what you can do. And if we're the right fit for you, great. If we're not, that's okay too. But give yourself the opportunity. You spent an hour of your time with me today. Give yourself the opportunity to find out is this the thing is this the one decision you make that changes everything? Because I truly do believe that most of us are like one decision away from greatness in a lot of different things in our life. Just one decision away. So, any other questions? If there are no other questions, I am going to say, you've got that free practice analysis in your chat box that you can click on and you can schedule to Quentin. Quentin, is there anything else you'd like to add to today?
I think that
before
was
you sign
great,
off?
Darren. I think you answered a lot of questions. Teresa, if you could put me into a breakout room with Dr. Carl, and we can talk real briefly for as much time as he has for now. And then we'll go ahead and set up some appointments with the other docs on here, and then we'll see where we can take it from there and what help you need in order to achieve your goals.
You guys can also scan that QR code to make it easy. Sorry, I didn't put that up. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. We truly like to help everyone out. So let us know if we can help you. And Teresa will help you. Quentin will help you. And I look forward to talking to you guys all soon.